Hi, my name's Dave, and you're listening to episode 86 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers, by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this episode is being brought to you through the generous support of Nigel Moser. If you'd like to be just like Nigel and help support the show, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com/onthebench and pledge any amount from $1 upwards. Your support helps us in our production and hosting costs and are greatly appreciated. The Scale Modeler Supply. Certified Australian made, the Scale Modeler Supply has created a comprehensive range of premium acrylic lacquer paints that have been specifically developed to cater for the scale modeler. Designed to use straight from the bottle, SMS paints have taken all the guesswork out of airbrushing. Simply shake the durable glass bottle and pour and spray for a fast-drying and extremely durable result. The ever-growing range of SMS paints will suit all types of model builders, be it military, aircraft, train, car, science fiction or Gunpla. SMS premium acrylic lacquer paints will have the colour to suit you. The Modeler Supply is also your one-stop shop for all weathering, brushes, masking, tools and other accessory needs. SMS paints and tools and accessories are available either directly from their website, www.scalemodeler.com.au, or through stockists across Australia, New Zealand, Singapore and the USA. And as a special bonus exclusive to our On The Bench listeners, you will get 10% off your next order by using the promo code OTB2020 when ordering direct from Scale Modeler. So go now to www.scalemodeler.com.au and place your order. We know you won't be disappointed. And hello and welcome to the show. And in the studio with me, I have Ian. G'day, Ian.
G'day, Dave. G'day, listeners.
And of course, I got Julian.
Yeah, I'm here.
Gents, how have we been?
Good. Very good. How about you, Dave?
Struggling
with what?
Well, I'm doing this darn dingo and from Mini Art, and the parts, the small, complicated parts, is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where it's just really pissing me off, to tell you the truth.
So the dingo's not your baby?
Yeah. Oh, very good, Julian.
Boom.
I just thought of that. I didn't even have to stew on it for a while.
No,
it's funny.
Dingo's not my baby.
I was talking to Tony Jacobs, and he's just finished building. I think he posted it on our webpage as well, on our Facebook page. A World War I British tank that he did. And that was done by that's it, Mung who produced it.
Yeah, I think it's Mung does the Mark IV, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Is it the Mark IV though, or is it the A7V? Because they got two World War Ones off the top. World War I
Allied or German?
I don't know.
Is it the one that looks? Is it the one that looks like a block of cheese, or is it the one that looks like a
rhomboid,
like a parallelogram or whatever?
Rhomboid.
Yeah, rhomboid.
Hang on a second.
Dave's gonna have a look. Dave's gonna have a look.
I've got to have.
While
a look
Dave's
now.
looking.
Oh,
I finally finished all the painting on the Buffalo.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You finished all the painting.
All the painting I finished, and then
So
what happened is I looked at it. Great. Oh, this looks fantastic. I'll take off all the Montex masks, and that's when I realised with all the handling, I'd moved some of the masks.
Oh,
So
shit.
some of me numbers are a bit off skew. So guess what I'm doing this afternoon? Sanding down the fuselage and repainting it.
No. It was Mung. So Mung did the kit.
And which kit is it, Dave?
Oh, he didn't say. It's just
Has he got a photo of it?
He does.
Well, show me the photo and I'll tell you what it is.
Oh, all right.
Oh yeah, it's the Mark IV.
The Mark IV.
That's a Mark IV, yeah.
The Mark IV.
Yeah.
Oh, is it the male or female?
I
Julian? I can't see.
always enjoy the red and white splash on the
Yeah, the red,
front.
white stripe.
Really
yeah.
breaks it up.
Yeah.
You know.
But anyway, we were both lamenting because he was saying even that kit's sort of over-engineered, and You know, it. And he actually spoke to Mike and Dave over it. He sent a email to Mike and Dave from our podcast, the Plastic Model Mojo, and you know the crazy overload of over engineering, which you know is getting out of hand. And Tony was saying he wonders, you know, no wonder some beginners into the hobby get anxiety when they're sort of looking at these kits.
Oh
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And it's just. This is just sapping my enjoyment out of building this mini art kit at the moment. It's just driving me nuts. So.
Well, see, I have no problem with high parts counts as long as they go together.
Oh, I agree.
Right? And
yeah.
men kits do go together. You can just start clipping things off,
Yeah.
and it just all just builds itself, you know?
Yep.
But on the other hand, I wouldn't be so quick to say that about mini art. Not that I've built a mini art kit, but I've seen other people build mini art kits, and I've heard other people's opinions after having built them, and they're not that easy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You've
got to really put a bit of elbow grease in.
Yeah, I mean, like I know that in the early days they had like broken parts and stuff in the kit because they would mold things like really thin, and their plastic was somewhat brittle, and then they put it all in one big bag, and things get broken.
Correct.
And I thought that maybe that had changed, but I've been hearing some things lately that have suggested that hasn't changed that much, maybe less, but not. It's still a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But to my credit,
Have you had anything like that though?
I have not put it aside, and I have not started on anything else. So it is still the one model on my bench at the moment.
Well done.
And my logic is, if I just leave that one kit and don't start anything else, I'm sort of forced to finish it.
Yeah. That's my theory.
Well,
I haven't been sticking to that theory lately, and I've got all these bloody things on the go.
I just want to knock this buffalo out now, and
It's been going for a while.
yeah. Well, consider I've got to repaint the fuselage this weekend, sand and repaint, which is going to put me behind at least another week, maybe 2, depending how much paint I get on. Because I don't get any modelling done over the weekdays.
Yeah.
It's just the weekends when I can scrounge some time. Yeah. But no, my next thing is finding it. I can't find one at the moment. Is a Yahoo instrument panel for me, new to me, a Spitfire, because I want to hook into that, the Mark 1.
Why don't you just wait for Eduard to get one of their Look series ones, because they're supposed to be like better quality.
Right. Because I know B&A doesn't have anything, any cockpits. Instrument panels for the Mark 1
because
Spitfires.
Eduard's done a copy of the Yahoo instrument panel style where it's just one piece and you just glue it in there.
Yeah, glue it in. Because as much as the Tamiya kit is absolutely stunning, I just find their instrument panels really lack the detail. I find them blocky.
Well, it's a black instrument panel, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's blocky, and the bezels around the gauges just seem too thick.
Uh-huh.
So besides that, everything else looks quite nice.
Mm.
And I'm really looking forward to hooking into it, but I got to get that Buffalo done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I don't have a Spitfire in my collection. Shame, shame, shame. I've got nearly every other aircraft out there, but Spitfires and Mustangs don't have one built.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, anyway.
Mm.
So I've got to remedy that. That's my big remedy for this year, is build a Spitfire and build a Mustang.
You still got the Aussie 8, don't you?
Yeah.
Easy 8 or whatever it's called.
Aussie 8.
Aussie
yeah.
8, okay, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Aussie 8.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you just hook into that? Build it out of box.
Yeah. I could do that. I've got 2 choices. I've got 2 kits in there, so I've got 2 choices.
Mm.
It's an idea. And I can continue on
And
my
you'll
Pacific
knock
War.
you'll knock one of those Eduard like double boxings on the head,
Yeah.
right? Because they tend to like just sort of sit there in people's collections, don't they?
Well, that's right. Yeah, and at least I'll have half the kit built if I build one. plus, I've really run out of room now. Like all my new Eduard Mustangs are just sitting on the floor because I don't have any cupboard space for them.
You've got no cupboard space left at all.
No. That's why half my model collection now just
Isn't it-
sits out
isn't
there.
it-
I'll tell you what, I'll be a real mate.
Oh,
I've got plenty of storage space. Why don't you just start storing them over here?
that's a slippery slope.
That's a slippery slope.
I promise I'll be well looked
I
after.
could lease them to you, Dave.
No, I don't want to leave. No. How much?
You'll come over.
We'll come to that
I'm
later.
thinking that. I'm thinking that 1/350 scale 4th stacker destroyer you've got. I'll happily lease that.
No. You're not taking my USS Ward.
Oh, okay.
So on my side of things,
Yes.
so I've got the Marcel Bloch or whatever it's called, MB-152, the little French plane.
We.
Yeah. So I lost. I got all the painting done on it, and I was like, yeah, I was really psyched about how it looked, right? Because I love that camouflage scheme, right?
Does look good. It's interesting colours, yeah.
And then I put the insignia on, and I just lost all interest
Because of that really bright red the French use.
Yeah. So if you don't know, like the red in the rounders is what put me off. They're really eye gouging.
Yeah, which is how they were.
Yeah.
Wait, do a South African aircraft, and that way you can do like a British symbol, but with an orange centre, not a red one.
No. In any case, like what the way I can sort of describe this red is it's kind of like you've got like the cleanest white T-shirt, and then you've smeared like tomato paste on it.
Yeah,
It's really, really bright. Like it's almost fluorescent in a way. Like it glows almost. And when you don't really realize it because like the blue is quite pale. It's a pale blue dot in the center. But when you look at it, that red is the same as the red on the French flag. And if you ever actually stop the time and look at it with your modeler's eye for colors, that's a really loud
red. Yeah,
red. It's not like a deep crimson red, or it's not like a very standard sort of red. It's a red that's designed
because that's the one you're doing. European theatre, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how those roundels would have looked like when they were in the, North Africa? Like when the Vichy French had their government up there with the other aircraft. I can't remember what they were. They were French, so it doesn't really interest me. But because under the desert sun, that blue would basically fade out to white.
Yeah, it would have bleached. Yeah.
And that red would have gone even brighter. And that would have been, you look at the plane wing and it would have burnt the back of your retinas out.
But you posted a picture on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I did.
And you got a couple of comments back, and some of them were saying it's fine.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's fine.
Well, accurate is, you know.
Well, the best way to do it, when you do your final flat coat, put a touch of green or grey in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
And that will tone it. That'll tone it down.
The problem is like...
it'll still be bright, but it won't gouge your eyes out.
Yeah. Also, the decals were pretty resistant to decal softener.
Really?
Yeah, and to the point where I had to put so much decal softener on it actually affected the paint.
Ooh, started eating into the paint.
And I use lacquer paint, right? So it's more durable than most.
Wow.
So
what sort of decal softener do you use?
The Guns branded one.
Okay.
Mr. Mark Softer.
Yeah. I use the same.
Yeah.
That's the green or the blue lid?
Green lid.
Green lid, yes.
Yeah. I've written 1 and 2 on the two things now, so I know which one to use in order.
Well, I got that, and I've got the Microsol.
I've never used the Microsol. Is it any good?
It's very lightweight.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
It's not something you use too often.
Yeah. But if you there's some decals that you can't use the heavier stuff on, it'll just eat them up.
Yep.
And that's where the.
But how do you know which decal you can use it on?
You test, Dave. You do a little test.
Well, it's easier to use the lesser one and then use the harsher one.
So basically, as Julian said,
point,
you
Julian.
use the Microsol. If that doesn't do it, you up it to the.
Yeah.
And here's a tip.
And then if that doesn't work, then you up it to Tamiya extra thin cement.
Yes.
So here's a tip for you, Dave.
Yes.
With the Microsol one, it comes in this long, skinny plastic bottle.
Yes, I've seen the bottles.
That always tip over. Always. There are no exceptions, right? Yeah. So if you're going to use it, here's what you do. You pour a little bit into the cap, and then you sit it in the far back corner of your desk where you can't touch it. Not even by accident.
And so that way, you can forget about it at the end of the day, not go back to the bench for a week, and then go, oh, it's evaporated. Got to buy a new bottle
Because if
now.
it's anywhere near you, I guarantee you'll knock it over.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've got a great program for you today. We're doing part 2 of our What Happened with Wingnut Wings, and we've got a great interview coming up with David Johnson later on.
Yep.
Which we're all looking forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
But in the meantime, we've got a whole heap of listener mail.
Oh, goody. Love
let's
listener mail.
Dig into that. So
Deep lane.
the first one comes from Mike Luck, and Mike writes, "Good morning, boys. I have a theory about the number of emails you are getting from the state of Virginia." Remember I was saying how many Virginians we got coming through? And anyway, ironically, I started my modelling career as a kid in Springfield, Virginia. There is a huge population of military personnel in that state due to the Pentagon and other military and government installations in Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. As I've mentioned before in other emails, my dad was Air Force, and we were stationed at the Pentagon twice. A majority of my grade school and middle school friends were also military brats. It seems a lot of military modelers have a connection with the armed services, whether they're retired servicemen or women, or even from military families. And I'm wondering if this partially explains it. Anyway, I thought of this last week and was reminded this morning while listening to you all. Now back to see what you have to say about Wingnut Wings. Cheers, Mike Luck. Well, that's an interesting...
Well, looking at it, yes.
Yeah, I think...
Well, you probably hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, well...
I mean,
possibly.
that might explain it for over there. But I
But
mean,
it just seems that Virginians are more willing to jump on their keyboards and send us an email at onthebench64@gmail.com than perhaps anybody else around the world or from the US.
Yeah, I mean, like the idea is that there's a correlation between large congregation of modelers and military activity, sort of within that area, right? But I don't know that many people that have entered the military around here, and we've got way too many modelers and hobby shops.
Well, Dave was in the military.
Yeah. So, what do you call a group of modelers when they get together? So, you get a group of crows. It's called a murder of crows.
Right.
What do you call it when a group of modelers get together?
An infestation.
Infestation.
Infestation of modelers.
I don't want to be known as
That
an
was the first thing
infestation.
that came to my head that made me laugh.
Well, let's see. That's how your brain works. Your brain works in some weird ways, man. If infestation was the first thing that came up.
Well, you may as well then call the modeller's house a bower.
Well, yeah, like a bowerbird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we collect. If it's shiny, we collect it.
Oh, we
Main.
Collection of collectors.
Oh, that's one for the listeners. All right, listeners, you got to come up with a term for a group of modelers.
Yes.
And we want to hear back, and that's what we're going to start calling groups of modelers from that day
sounds
onwards.
a good idea.
Yeah, that's your homework.
That's your homework, listeners.
Yeah.
Next email comes from Les Mediv, and he writes, "G'day, benchers. Just wanted to weigh in. I know I'm a couple of weeks late, but I'm behind the podcast. The main reason I was going to the store in town before it closed was to buy paints and glues. These are expensive to ship, and sometimes I only need 1 or 2 bottles. Now I have to get them online, and life really sucks. And it really sucks the life out of building, having to go and get them online." I know what he's saying, Liz, because sometimes to have the convenience, we can just jump in the car and go 15 minutes down the road, grab what you need, and come straight back again. And I've done that numerous times. Mm-hmm. With buying online, sometimes you got to really, excuse me, sometimes you really got to plan ahead and to line up all the stuff that you need if you haven't already got it.
Yeah, well,
And
that's always
and it can really take the wind out of your sails when you've got a head of steam up and you're at the bench and you're fired up and you're building away and I haven't got enough paint. Oh, I haven't got any paint.
Yeah,
I've run out of the glue.
I would argue that having that limitation taken off and not planning ahead can lead to a situation where you've painted it in the wrong color because you had easy access to the paint, but you didn't take the time to make sure what color paint you needed.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like I wouldn't want. Fortunately, it hasn't happened to me really. That
Well, I always find my problem with going shopping online is end up spending more money than I plan to.
Oh, really?
Well, look,
the
tight bugger that I am.
That's because you try to load up your trolley.
Exactly. I don't like paying shipping. Right. So with most companies, you've got to spend X amount of dollars before you get free shipping. Well,
but see, and
I don't think I've paid for shipping with B&A for it must be about 5 or 6 years since I've had to pay shipping. and so every time I do an order, it's well over $150.
Yeah. And the thing you don't want to do is wait too long because otherwise someone might buy the thing that you've got in your trolley.
It's happened so many times.
Can somebody steal it out of your trolley, can they?
No. Well, it's not like you reserved it. You just put it on your shopping list, essentially.
It's
I thought you reserved it.
No. It's just...
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I've been caught out a few times, especially with B&A. B&A, sometimes if it's on back order and you've got a whole heap of other stuff, they won't send anything until that back ordered part is in stock.
I've been caught out on that one.
And like I put stuff in my shopping cart and then gone, I'll do it next week.
Yep.
come back, paid for it all, only to realise that once I pressed the payment button that there was 3 little red stars under one of the thingos, which means someone's come within that week and bought it, and now I've got to wait for that beat to come into stock before the rest of my stuff can come in.
Well, and the first thing you do is you go and look for other places to find it.
Yeah.
And then you find nothing.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Alan Gills from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada writes, "Hi guys, still loving the podcast and thanks for the weekly schedule during your lockdown." No worries, it was a very busy time for us, wasn't it? Pumping out episodes each week.
Yeah.
Alan continues, anyway, I'm just listening to episode 85 and Ian mentioned silver chipping on fabric driving him nuts. As it happens, sunlight will rot aircraft fabric faster than you might imagine. It's the UV light that breaks down those fibres. Mm-hmm. To prevent that, aircraft would have a coat of silver dope on the fabric before the colour coat went on.
Yep.
It was actually an aluminium powder mixed in with clear dope, and it does look like metal when it's on and dried. So, fabric services that were showing silver chipping is not far-fetched, and I've seen it a few times in real life. I'm no expert on how covering was done in the past, or within the last few years for that matter, but silver showing under colour on fabric is a real possibility. You'd have to check your references and just to make sure that it was,
I fully agree, but what I was more trying to say is, yes, you can have the silver on the fabric, but it has to be a different shade of silver to the metal chipping. Mm. If it's exact same shade as the chipping on the metal, to me it's not right, because silver dope is not the same as aluminium or polished aluminium.
Mm. Yeah.
Thus, the chipping is going to, if you're going to do silver chipping on your fabric surfaces to do the silver dope, use a more duller silver than you would a more brighter silver with the bare metal showing.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, my sort of reaction to that sort of thing is, if that's the case with the silver, the metal doping type stuff underneath it, mm-hmm. I haven't seen any photos of the color chipped off, but the silver dope or whatever it is underneath mm-hmm. it showing. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to see that before I agree. And even then, you have to think, well, what are the chances of there being chipping like that on moving surfaces? The areas where you don't walk,
the thing with
the areas that you do just check and then you always have to make sure that everything's in perfect nick on those areas, right?
But what I look at also, Julian, is especially those fabric surfaces, that's fabric, which means that's got a lot more flex. Mm. So under extreme flight, you could think that fabric is going to be bouncing up and down.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, obviously,
astronomical rate. After a while, stuff's just going to basically ping off and flake off. Yeah. So I can see that happening. But
then, as well as that, there's another layer. There's the actual modelling portion, right? Outside of reality, there's the modelling portion. When someone sees chipping on fabric surfaces, it looks wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like the first impression, the first thing you think of when you look at it, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Mm. And as I was saying, if it's the same colour and style of chipping as you got on the metal parts, mm-hmm. it does look wrong. It's got you got to change. You got to differentiate between bare metal,
to dope
and silver dope.
Yeah.
And then there's a factor that I'd like to bring in, like, because it's always a case of like, there's always an example out there that will support any kind of opinion, right? But what you got to ask yourself is it a typical opinion? Because typical opinions get believed, and the rare instances are sort of like, okay, unless you're reproducing that exact plane, it's going to look weird.
Correct.
Because you're just sort of like Googling up stuff to support your the way you've done it, which you didn't know was right to begin with.
Yeah, like building that famous photo of that Thunderbolt that lost all its oil, and you've got basically a nice silver P-47 Thunderbolt, but 3/4 of it's just glossy black.
Yeah, glossy black, right? Like if you built
which would have been so much fun to try and land that plane, not.
Yeah, but see, like if you go after building that plane and go after that exact look, right?
you're gonna have to try.
It's-
You have to be a hard job to pull that off.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But if you're able to pull it off, it's like, oh, I can definitely see what's going on here. It's clearly oil. But if some guy's just throwing black down the side of a plane to make it look like a random oil spill, it's just going to look like a mistake.
Correct. Yep.
Not the same thing.
Paul Caridi writes in, "Hi, men." Oh, that's a different
Men.
title. Hi,
Yeah.
men.
That's us.
What a gentleman.
Manly men.
Yes. Men. Well, no, I better not say
Manly
that. I'll get hit with copyright. Hi, men. Ian spoke about Warlord's Hobby Shop. If I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
it would be the same one I went to as a kid on High Street, Thornbury, Melbourne.
Yes.
You're right. The guy was creepy when watching you in the shop. Apparently, he actually killed a guy
Yes.
who was broken into his
Yes.
store one night as the owner lived out the back. And it was around 1988, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Totally understandable. Don't mess with my stash.
You can just sort of imagine him sort of going, I've been waiting for this day.
Puts on his bandana and
like, I've been leaving
Charlie
the-
taught me well.
I've been leaving the door unlocked for years waiting for this to happen.
Just hang on a minute. I'll just stick on the doors on the radio.
And Paul continues on. There was a magnificent diorama in his shop front window for years on a multi-story close-quarter battle in 1/32nd scale in a partially destroyed building.
Yes.
My imagination from there was triggered about anything to do with World War II. And Paul goes on to write, how are the new generation of modelers ever going to experience that wonder and amazement by not walking into a physical shop? You just don't get the same sensation online. I've noticed that since you've been doing the shows of the COVID restrictions, I'm sure I can hear the rattle of cleaning brushes in a cup, Ian's squeaky chair, and his lack of conversation when he's concentrating on whatever he's building. All good seeing modelling is still going on. He also asks, as a subject to discuss, what do you think the new trend is going to be? Is it weathering, or more particularly heavy weathering now seems to be a thing? Pre-shading and panel lines and scribing are subjects common on forums. I can see LED miniature lighting being really developing and coming on now due to technical advancements. What do you think is coming, or moreover, what would you like to see developed? P.S. Keep up the tips. One of your tips solved a problem I had with clear coat agent on guns bubbling, and it wasn't until I heard your show where one of you mentioned not to shake the jar. Bang, problem solved. Keep up the excellent service, Paul.
You're welcome.
I don't think
Animatronics.
Animatronics of the modelling? No way. No.
I don't think you'll see lighting getting any more prominent than it already is, because it's hard enough to get a handle on your modelling skills without adding electrical engineering to it.
Trying to get us to learn how to use soldering irons.
I mean,
and so
don't get me
forth.
wrong. If there's enough products out there to fill the gap in the skill, so it's like, buy this and it will light your thing, and you just need to put the lights in the right places. Done. Maybe that.
Well, there are
that.
companies that do. I'm pretty sure it's Polar Lights does.
It's mostly
like
for sci-fi
electrical
kits.
kits for sci-fi kits. Yeah, but. Yeah, what's the future going to hold? Well, that's an interesting question because
Hopefully it holds just better
I
fitting
think-
kits.
Yeah, look, I mean, and we've seen sort of different waves come through. We've seen the Spanish school of sort of weathering sort of wash over the modelling sort of hobby.
Yeah, make
you
everything
see-
stand out.
Yeah, you see, what's that? Modulation. Another
modulation.
Another one that's sort of come through.
Now you've got I can't remember what they call it, but before you do your pre-shading, you now start putting like different
Now
coloured
it's post-shading is a
No,
big
they
thing.
little different coloured splotches on panels before you put your main colour down.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Yeah, I tried
the
that
black
with the-
basing type stuff.
Yeah, but I did that with the Buffalo this time. First time ever, I put different panels had like grey spots underneath there, and other ones had browns and yellows and greens. And then when I put the colour over it, it works.
Oh, okay.
It works. It really gives you that mottly, uneven, just used look to the paint.
The sort of tonal variation.
Correct, yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So when you did that, did you get a panel section and paint it completely brown, or you just did dabs of brown
Just
here and
dabs.
there and dabs
And
of grey?
occasionally I'd even add a different colour in that panel.
Yeah.
Well, see, some people do that after the fact with oils.
Yeah.
You know, that's where like the what you call it, the dot
technique,
filters.
Dot filtering.
Yeah.
Because I started watching this guy on YouTube, and Eastern European fella, Martin Kovacs.
Oh, yeah.
And watching
Night
his
shift.
night shift. Watching his weathering techniques is absolutely, it was fascinating.
Yeah.
I just looking at what he's doing, I'm going, oh, is that how you do it? I can do that.
Mm.
And it's all basic stuff.
Mm.
All you need is a good paintbrush and a steady hand, and follow the guy's instructions, and bang.
Bang, masterpiece done.
Yeah.
Bang, masterpiece.
That's a way to do it.
I don't think I've heard anything glossed over to that degree in a while.
It's like Dave going, and here's one we prepared earlier. Shing.
Yeah, the one where like, you know, he's cooking the thing and it doesn't look particularly good, or like something you would eat, and then like here's one we prepared earlier, made by a professional chef. Masterpiece done.
Yeah, that's the one Dave handed to Julian. Ooh.
Mr. Aidan O'Donnell writes in, "Hi guys, just a quick note, read the last episode. It was both interesting and rather sad to hear of the circumstances behind the demise of Wingnut Wings. I was saving my pennies to buy the Hansa Brandenburg D1, but now that won't be happening. It's such a shame the company ended so badly. Also, I have a question with regard to modelling aircraft building jigs. I have seen a couple of these on eBay and was considering buying one. Has anyone used one, and how useful are they? Best regards." And before we answer that, there's also a PS. PS, before I go, I'd like to take issue with Julian's disparagement of dad jokes. He obviously hasn't been subjected to years of being used as a chauffeur, cleaning, laundry service and ATM. He has yet to hear such heartwarming statements as, "Dad, you're not really going to wear that, are you?" Or, "Dad, you're so embarrassing. Can you walk on the other side of the street?" Or experience the joy of knowing that as far as your young offspring are concerned, your every utterance is about as welcome as a fart in a deep-sea diver's helmet or dog poo in a lucky dip. As far as I'm concerned, dad jokes are like campaign ribbons worn in the great struggle of family life, and I, for one, will continue to tell them with pride. Julian has all that to look forward to.
Well, see, all those things that he's accusing younger generations of treating their fathers of. I've never treated my father that way.
You're an exception.
Yeah, I know. I'm exceptional.
So back to Aidan's question about aircraft modelling jigs. Have any of you guys got aircraft modelling jigs
Yeah.
that you use?
I got a custom-made one I designed myself
Yeah.
that I got laser etch solutions to make for me.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did
It's
too.
the same one. He also made the jig for our ship.
For our ships, yeah.
Yes, the dry dock.
Yeah. Which is now available through mini Wargame Miniatures.
Yes.
.com.
Yes. I don't know if you went ahead and produced the aircraft jig, because that aircraft jig that I made up with him is brilliant.
Yeah.
I've got me Buffalo sitting on it at the moment. It's great.
What about you, Julian?
No, I don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if even if I owned one, I'm not sure if I'd actually put it to use, to be honest.
I find it handy because without the aircraft being on its wheels or anything, it's now sitting completely level. So normally when you put an aircraft without wheels on the bench, it always rocks.
Yeah.
Because you got the round fuselage.
Yeah.
It just sits there. You got your two prongs in the middle that hold your wings in position. If you want to work it on an angle, well, you just turn your aircraft, lift the prong on one side, drop the prong on the other side, and you can have like a 45-degree angle. And that way, you've got both hands free. You're not holding the model. It's there in front of you. You've got two hands. You can have one hand steady while you're doing some really high detailed brush, so you can hold your right hand steady.
And you're not getting fingerprints over the
Correct.
model. You can't drop the model.
Yep.
And and it's also off your bench because it's sitting in the jig.
Correct.
So it can't
anything
have anything
spills,
Yeah.
It's all going to miss it.
So,
So yes, I've got one and I do use it, and I reckon it's a great tool.
I'm not denouncing its use. It definitely has use, but I mean, I'm not sure if I personally would need to use it in that way.
Well, I thought exactly the same until I started using it, and then was like, why have I not used this before?
See, I think that with the way I model, I would end up putting it in the jig and then taking it out of the jig and then putting it in the jig and then taking it out again.
Oh, you
and
do
then
that, yeah.
And then getting frustrated at having to do so.
Yeah, no, it's not frustrating, Julian. It's just how hard is it? You're lifting up a 20-gram bit of plastic and putting it in front of you. And then
so
lifting a 20 gram bit of plastic and putting it back on there.
In a slowly adjust. So have you ever played Jenga?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when the rules of the game is that when you remove the blocks from the pile, you're only supposed to use one hand, right?
Yeah.
So do you ever use some of your fingers to brace the tower while you use two of your fingers to pull the block out? Because that's how I play.
That's cheating.
How is it cheating? See, the
I
way
that.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit more dexterous than most because I've got dainty.
Oh, he's got dainty little hands.
I do have dainty hands because I didn't.
He's got a woman's hands. I bet you those hands have never ever.
Well, because
Sorry, I just went a bit black out of there.
Well,
for you guys.
if I compare myself to you guys, I didn't go into the military.
Neither did I.
And by the way, the work that you do when you're growing up, and when you in your 20s and stuff, does affect the way that your hands form, right? I've got the same genetics as my father, right? And he's the same build as me, but he's got big, fat, meaty hands because he's a mechanic, right? Your hands are fairly normal because you did a mixture of both office work and warehouse work, right?
Yeah, and now I'm doing a lot of manual work, so now my hands are trashed.
Yeah, but I'm a nerd, so all I've ever done is work on keyboards.
So you got really hard fingertips.
Oh, I don't know about that, but they're very skinny fingers,
yeah,
right? And so I'm pretty used to one thing that I tend to do in modeling is I'll hold the model in my left hand, but I'll do all sorts of things with my right hand. And a typical thing I'll do is I'll use my pinky as a brace against the model while I hold a brush or a tool or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'll do more than one sort of action with the one hand.
Yep.
So I don't think it's as useful to specifically someone like me to use that kind of a jig.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fair enough.
Each to his own, we always say.
Mm.
Yeah.
But by all means, if you can make use of it, I would highly suggest you do so. The more tools you have, that's my
that's
my
have
motto.
enough tools.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I would still potentially, if I was more of a ship model, I would definitely spring for a ship one because I think you do need somewhere to put.
Oh yeah, the dry docks just
Yep.
that just is probably the best tool I've had for shipbuilding.
Mm.
Speaking of ship stuff, Eric writes in and he's saying that North Star models are halting their 1700 line, presumably to focus on larger items. As you guys build ships and have a propensity to buy with abandon, well, that's actually Ian who does that. I thought you guys should know. I purchased from North Star before. They're from the former Soviet Union,
Yes.
but are very reliable.
Now, North Star do some great products. I've got a heap of their figures. The only problem with North Star is they now no longer ship to Australia, New Zealand or Canada.
Oh.
They flatly refuse to ship to those three countries. So you've got to go through a third party. And
It's not like there are any modelers in those countries.
No, I know. It's weird, isn't it? I think it's got something to do with taxes or something like that, but which is really annoying because there's so many... Because North Star also does sci-fi figures and all sorts of goodies. They do some... And they got some really talented guys under their belt. And
They do the 1/350 scale figures.
Correct.
And they are brilliant.
They are insanely beautiful figures.
Yeah, and detailed for that scale.
But to try and get your hands on them... as everyone probably remembers, long-time listeners will remember, the challenge I had to try and find Japanese pilots. I knew they were out there. You get Japanese flight crew, which one of our listeners, thank God, came and got them for me. He got them from England. I actually got them shipped to England and then shipped them to me. Unfortunately, they finally got to where I was the day before Expo, so I had no chance of painting and putting them on the ship, but... Still, they could be got that way, but yeah, I know he's talking about North Star, but yeah, trying to get their products is nigh on impossible.
We have an email from Shane Hibbard, and Shane writes, "Hi guys, I discovered your podcast about a year ago and have been working my way through them. I suspect I fit well into your median demographic of listeners when it comes to how and why I came to be modelling. As usual, I modelled as a kid until cars and girls drew my interests away. I'm now nearly 54 years old and I restarted modelling about 15 years ago when I spent just $1 at a car boot sale on a second-hand 148 scale Hellcat. Oh, what
good
a score.
choice. Good choice.
Well, that $1 soon escalated into the thousands of dollars.
Yes.
With nearly 100 kits either built or in the stash, airbrushes, compressors, paints, tools, weathering pigments, lots of photo etch and aftermarket decals, etc., etc. I'm sure you all know where I'm coming from.
Yep.
I mostly model military subjects, 1/35th scale and 1/48th scale aircraft usually, but I love the 1/350 scale warships. But the overriding thing is anything with an Australian theme is what I prefer to build. I also have a few cars, and I've started a 1/35th scale diorama with a complete range of Tamiya dinosaurs. Well, this sounds
cool.
like your kind of guy, eh?
Yeah. I like those old Tamiya dinosaur kits. They were pretty good.
Don't ask me where I'm going to put this when it's finished. To fit them all on bases is going to be a real struggle.
And if you got the big brachiosaur, that's a huge kit.
It is. I think it's some of them are 1.2 by
I think they're
metre.
120 scale, if my memory serves me correctly.
Something like that. I was just listening to your recent discussion where you're talking about how you've all veered away from using super glue as a filler. I use it all the time. The thick super glue is my go-to to get around the issue of sanding the raised glue, but preferentially removing the plastic. I use a small flat file to get the glue flush with the surface, then finish it off with a fine sanding stick. Being a geologist, I often travel with work and sometimes by air, hence no issue travelling with super glue, and often find myself in hotels, mining camps and caravannings out in the bush. This is where I get most of my modelling done. Excuse me. I have a small travelling toolkit, and I'll grab one or two kits and throw them in a plastic storage container and then into the travel bag. I build as much as I can do by pre-painting, and sometimes will even paint the interior as an aircraft before I leave home. With a little bit of planning up front, you can progress quite some way along the build. On returning home, the model can be finished off, painted and weathered. Armour and aircraft, smaller craft the best, as they tend to pack better in transport, often along long dirt roads in the goldfields of Western Australia. I have a question. What national insignias on aircraft? What were the were national insignias on aircraft standard sizes, i.e., well, a 1/48 scale British roundel on an upper wing of a Spitfire be the same size as the one on a Lancaster?
No.
As others have said, you guys are my de facto model club. Looking forward to the next instalment. Cheers from Shane.
No, they weren't. They were specific to, I think fighters had one size, bombers had another size.
You would know. I wouldn't. With Americans, the insignias were designated sizes.
Yeah,
like
like
you got
42,
55-inch ones.
42 inch.
Yeah, all that sort of thing, yeah.
And the same would apply to British, Australian roundels, German crosses, Japanese Hinamarus. Because I think it all comes down to the scale of the national marking to the wing.
Uh-huh.
It's got to be a certain size compared to the wing to be visual. Thus, they're not all going to be the... Because you put like a roundel from a Spitfire onto a Lancaster, it's going to be absolutely tiny.
Yeah. But I mean, like, at least with... The only one I know about is the Americans, right? And with them, they have preset sizes, from what I understand.
Well, I know because I've got a sheet at home. I can't remember what brand it is, but it's just British roundels.
Mm-hmm.
And there must be about 30 different sizes.
Oh, really?
There are that many different sizes on this sheet.
Right.
So yeah, they are different. You cannot change.
We got an email from Peter Andrus. Andrus, I beg your pardon.
Andreas,
thank you. I just want to let you know that I appreciate you reading my email on the podcast the other week. And for the suggestion that was given as an update, just wanted to let you know that I tried your suggestion and found that although it was useful, it was a bit wonky in some situations. However, it did lead me to try an alternative, the corner of Bounty paper towel. It fit into the corner of the narrow spaces I was gluing and did the job just great. Wish I'd known about it before I got so far to my project, and he'll send some pictures when it's done. Thank you. And Pete's also sent another email in, but it's got some photos and stuff. He's stuck on a problem, so I might hold that over, and we will look at that in detail and respond to him privately. John McAvoy is asking the question, is Ian building the EB-57 Canberra, and does he need any detailed pictures of the full-size aircraft? What Canberra are you building, Ian?
Me, I'm building the Mark 21, I think it is. But the Australian version, which was the Mark 21.
The EB-57 is the American
That's
version.
the American one, yeah. Which had the pilot sitting behind the navigator was Bombardier sitting behind, one sitting behind the other.
Rather than side by side.
Side by side.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's appreciated. I have a ton of photos. I've got a ton of photos, and a few books. And a model kit that's sitting on the shelf of Doom that'll probably sit there in the next 5 years.
There you go.
Because I'm that disillusioned with it.
Well, that's it for listener mail. And, of course, if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach out to us via email. Our email address is onthebench64@gmail.com. And also don't forget our Facebook page, On The Bench. Just type in On The Bench on the search engine and you will find us. So do we want to have a quick break before we go into what's new in the modelling world?
Yep.
A very quick break, and we'll be back to talk about what's new in the modelling world. And then we've got the very interesting discussion coming up with Dave, who used to be with Wingnut Wings.
Yep.
Back with you very shortly. Fine Scale Modeller is the world's most recognised and essential magazine for modellers, and is available in all good newsagents and newsstands or wherever you purchase your magazines. Alternatively, go to their website www.finescale.com and subscribe to either a print edition or their digital edition. Go now. Go to www.finescale.com.
Ian, look at that CR-42 in Battle of Britain markings.
Yes.
Sound familiar?
Yes.
And as you can hear, we're back and we're having a look at what's new in the modelling world. And Italeri have announced 6 releases for June.
Oh, 6 of them.
So the first one is in 1/9 scale. It's a Yamaha Tenere 660cc Paris-Dakar 1986.
Yamaha motorcycle.
Yes, which is really cool. 1/9 scale. It's going to be huge.
Yeah. Imagine the size of most of that would be fuel tank too.
This has to be a new kit, I'm sure of it, because I don't think they've done one of these before. Comes with rubber and chrome parts, screws, springs, and rubber tyres are included. You know, in that scale, I think rubber tyres would be acceptable.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And if you love your motorcycles, this is something. And pictures of the completed bike look absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to distinguish between that and a real thing.
Look, almost looks like it's got like proper metal spokes.
Yeah.
Actually, I bet it would.
Yeah, that scale. Either that or
I bet you
really
those
nicely.
are real metal spokes.
I don't know. In 1/48 scale, there is a H-34A Pirate, which is a Sikorsky helicopter from the 1950s. The decal sheets come with it also for 5 versions in French, German, and US markings. And if you love building helicopters, this should be quite an interesting one to build.
Yeah, quite the iconic beast, those.
It was very much so. Used a lot by, obviously, the US Marine Corps. A lot of Air Forces, Army Air Forces worldwide used them as well. And it was a precursor to the Huey, really, wasn't it?
Yep.
This was the one with the Wright R1820 Cyclone piston engine. And it was a real workhorse of helicopters. And in fact, it was a real one that sort of brought helicopters into the mainstream of military use, I'd have to say. It comes with photo etch. And yeah, it looks like it might be a good build.
Oh.
Next up is an M4 Sherman of the US Marine Corps in 1/35th scale.
Cool. Pacific Shermans.
Yeah. Now this one comes with the ability to actually do that wooden stuff.
The armour.
The
wooden planks on the side.
Wooden planks on the side.
Yeah.
What was that all about, Julian?
Well, extra armour protection.
Wood?
Yeah. It'd hit that, go off, and destroy the wood before it can fully
there was
penetrate
a lot of
the
sort
metal.
of weird customization that went on the Shermans in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
always
know,
like the spiky ones.
yeah, the spikes.
Oh, great.
And then they also had like little cages that they would weld up over the top of the hatches and stuff.
Mm.
And if you actually look at, like, the problem is, like, you never see that done in a model because the welding of that stuff is really intricate. It's like they got like really pro welders to like just make the most intricate and neat, really, really neat sort of like cages that are perfectly shaped to fit over the top of them, you know?
The interesting thing is the camo pattern of the US Marine tank battalions.
Of the
It's,
sand and the greens, yeah.
It looks pretty cool.
It does look good.
And also it's got like the snorkels.
Yeah.
So it can wade in off the landing
Beach.
craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Very cool. Comes, unfortunately, with vinyl tracks. So definitely want to get rid of them. Although it's looking like you've got some individual link tracks there as well in the...
Yeah, that'd probably be the spare tracks.
of course, to go to the mount on the side.
A little bit of mesh.
In 1/24th scale is a Mercedes-Benz 600S.
That looks like a sort of 90s or early 2000s era luxury car. Mercedes.
Definitely.
That's it.
Now, the decal sheet comes and they're trying to represent the walnut finish. And it looks shocking.
Looks a bit orange to me.
Yeah. It looks like a potato chip with the spicy sort of sprinkling on
a
it.
paprika flavored chip.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. If you like building your cars, I think you'll probably...
It looks curbside to me. Has it got an engine?
No,
it'd be
no
curbside.
engine, yeah. So, interesting. Next up, and this raised the eyebrows of Julian when I showed him earlier on, in 1/72nd scale, it's a Fiat CR42 Falco. And this one is from Battle of Britain. And it's, what wasn't well known is that the Italian Air Force actually participated in the Battle of Britain.
And got under the feet of the Luftwaffe.
Not very successfully, I'll say.
Yeah, this is in 72nd scale. Not the same as the one that I did, but it's nice knowing that it's a Battle of Britain scheme.
Yeah.
Very hard camouflage pattern to do.
Yes.
Yeah, with the green and brown spots over the sand.
Yeah. And I've seen, modelers actually pull this off, and I take my hat off to them. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, well, my problem is that some people try to do it with a brush, and this doesn't look
Nah.
right.
No. This is interesting. In 1/24th scale, it's a 40-foot container trailer.
Oh.
I guess for the truck builders out there looking to sort of add to their model trucks, this would be the perfect sort of
Oh,
fit.
definitely. You see hundreds of them every day.
Well,
The shipping container has a lot of weathering opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
it does actually.
It
yeah.
does.
So that should be quite interesting. It's come to the trailer as well. So
Yeah, so it looks like just a trailer that they mount the great big long shipping containers on.
Yeah, they're specially made trailers. They've got little
Yeah.
dogs on either corners that they hook into the corners of the container and stops it from falling over.
Yeah, so you can go nuts with your
Correct.
rust and all that sort of
And
fading.
you can open the back doors and fill it with whatever you want.
with the car.
Car, bits of a plane.
the Falcon has written in
the Falcon.
with a bit of news on new kits. And the Falcon writes under aircraft section, this was mentioned a while back on the podcast, but gas patch models are now showing CAD renders for the upcoming 148 scale Messerschmitt ME 163. Looks like it lives up to the quality we have come to expect from gas patch. It's interesting gas patch are getting into modelling manufacturing now, in full scale modelling, not just add-ons. Zvezda have shown renders of their 148 scale Illusion IL2. There's no doubt that this is an all-new tool and not a rebox of the Accurate Miniatures kit. The kit depicts the late version of the single-seat Stormovik with metal wings and wooden fuselage. Some talk that there will be a two-seater in the future, and the kit will come with a full engine and highly detailed bomb bays and wheel wells. And apparently it looks as impressive as Zvezda's own 48 scale PE2 Peshka. JetMads have announced a limited edition 132nd scale JA-37 Vigan in resin. There will only be 500 made, but if you want one, you're a bit late, as apparently all 500 have already been
Sold
pre-sold. Oh, dear. Dora Wings have shown CAD renders for a 148 scale Curtiss SN1 Falcon, the Navy version of the Curtiss-Wright CW-22 trainer.
Ooh.
While related to the Curtiss CW-2 21B Demon Fighter, as used by the NEIAF. It's the
Netherlands East Indies Air Force.
The assumption that Dora Wings will automatically kit the Demon may not be necessarily correct. Dora Wings spokesman has said that they would like to make so many changes that there is no guarantee that a Demon kit will follow the Falcon.
Yep. Fair enough.
Micromere have announced a family of interwar Junkers monoplanes in 148 scale. Micromere plan to do the Junkers W.33, W.34, W.46 and the K.43. Only early CAD renders at this point, so probably a while before they hit the shops.
Well, that means you might be able to do Bobby Gibbs's airline.
Yeah.
Because they're an airline using Junkerses after the war.
There you go.
They ran Papua New Guinea.
Bat Projects are working on a 1/72nd scale DH.86 Express, which is a 4-engine biplane airliner. Never heard of Bat Projects, have you guys?
No.
Oh, that's interesting. Copper State Models have said that their 1/32nd scale Hansa Brandenburg D1 project is back on.
Yes. That got canned because Wingnuts were going to do the same.
Copper State Models had halted their work after Wingnut Wings announced their own kit of the Star Strutter, but now Wingnut Wings kaput CSM will resume work, possibly available in 2021. Copper State Models have also said they have plans for a couple more 32nd scale aircraft. One is going to be an unnamed French 2-seat multi-purpose aircraft, and another is described as, not another boring, PC-10 British aeroplane, although it comes in PC-10. Make of that what you will. The popular range...
anything.
It could be. The popular range of 135th scale World War I armoured cars are currently CSM's main focus, so the aircraft kits may be some time away. Speaking of World War I aircraft and Wingnut Wings' demise, Roden are showing some interest in re-entering the World War I aviation field. Roden are currently watching a thread on World War I aircraft forum, which is canvassing the options on what World War I aircraft Roden should tackle first. If Roden's recent 132nd Sherman is a preview of what they could do with Great War aircraft, then World War I aircraft modelers may find the loss of Wingnut Wings a little less painful. Interesting. Armour. Zvezda have recently shown box art and a build-up of their new 35th scale M4A2 Sherman. Only casting marks and minor details are still to be added to the final kit, so it doesn't look far from release. The decals will be for 3 Russian and for 1 US, which we think may be a marine vehicle.
Cool.
What do you think of that one, Julian?
Is that Zvezda, did you say?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Because they generally don't do rubber tracks. They do...
link and length, isn't it?
Link and length, individual link.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I don't think that's really the way to go on the nicely tensioned US vehicles.
Yeah.
They have the nice taut tracks. But I don't know. I'll have to see.
So yeah, wait and see.
The Falcon continues. Mini art are all quiet this week. Only non-figure release is an Israeli Defence Force dozer blade in 1/35th scale. ICM have shown CAD renders of a WOT-8 truck chassis with a BM-13-16 in 1/35th scale. Basically, it's ICM's previously released British Watt WOT-8-8 truck with a Katusha rocket launcher replacing the tray body.
Yep.
So it's a truck with rockets on the back. ICM is...
Stalin's organs.
Yeah, he's rather stepping onto Trumpeter's toes here, with Trumpeter doing a lot of those sort of trucks.
Yep.
Das Works' latest release in 1/35th is a 2-in-1 kit of the Storm Schutz. Yeah. Stug G3 OS FG with Zimmermitt.
Zimmerit.
What did I say? Zimmermitt.
I don't know what I'm saying, Dave, but I was worried. I was getting a bit worried you were having a stroke.
It's a rebox of the Dragon kit. From what I could see, it seemed to be priced a bit lower than Dragon. Woohoo!
Yeah,
So might be worth seeking it out. That's it for this week. Have a fun show. All the best from Tom Conway. And then in brackets, oh no, I've given it all away. Good try, Falcon. We know you are not Tom Conway, but we're not going to reveal exactly who you are.
Who's Tom Conway again?
Oh, he was a singer.
All right.
Singer,
No wonder I didn't get the reference.
Who back then sung some very dubious songs, which we won't get into.
No, that's it for what's new. You guys got anything? Do you want to add to what's new?
No, not really. No.
No.
I've got nothing new. No.
All right.
No, I've been all quiet.
Yeah, you know, over on the tool front.
Oh yes, tell us about some tools you
No,
bought.
I haven't bought any
Oh,
tools,
okay.
and I haven't. I've just been noticing that there's quite a lot of these sort of like airbrush masks for the motley type look.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them on the
They're
market.
flooding the market now.
now. Yeah.
Just
And
use it. Just pull apart a scouring sponge.
Well, I think that there's enough out there that you can probably like take your pick. Like,
Yeah.
you know, whether you want one that's sort of like a laser cut piece of wood, or there's some plastic ones, there's photo etch
etch.
ones, there's a lot of them out there nowadays. You know,
I've got the photo etch from Ushi, and I'm waiting on some from Fishbone to arrive in. I've been having some trouble with the Fishbone ones because of some mail, but he just wrote to me this week and said that he's redispatched another lot because apparently the first one got lost in the mail. So
Where are they coming from?
Malaysia. There's been some trouble with the mail, so we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the thing, like, now that there's some variety in them, I think, like, one of the things you should probably look at if you're thinking of getting one is, like, pay attention to how big they are and the size of the mottling kind of thing. Because
Have it scaled correctly.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that might be a bit, like, it might not be tight enough for what you want to do.
But basically, this mottling, what it's doing is replacing the old salt technique is what it's doing.
No. It's more like what you were doing, like with your buffalo, right? You want to do like little sort of dabs of airbrush work as an underlying thing for your paint job to add
So
variation.
it's pre-mottling to your paint job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but remember that effect that you get on US Navy aircraft where they've been sitting on the aircraft carrier,
Yeah, you get
and
that
it's got that
splotchy
sort of
effect.
splotchy
Yeah,
effect. Yeah. And that's what you can do with some of these masks.
Yeah.
But you're not really supposed to use it as like an over-the-top effect. You do it as an under effect. So like usually over a black primer job.
Yeah.
Right? So that then, like, say you might get your, like if it's a grey plane, you do it in grey, right? And you do your sort of marble coat, as they say, either by hand or you just shoot through one of these stencil things.
Oh, okay.
And then over the top, you can just lay down nice, wide areas, right?
Because not everyone can
down.
can get that really fine with their airbrush. Depending, because some people don't have good airbrushes. They've just got a standard airbrush that's basically just a fan,
Spray gun.
Yeah, a spray gun, and that's what these are handy for. So if you can't get like really in close and tight splotches on your airbrush, you use one of these. But if you can do by hand. Just do it by hand.
Yeah, because it's really like quite a trained skill to otherwise sort of add variation and like randomness to your work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's sort of something you have to actually work on for a while before you're actually able to, do it randomly.
All right, well, that's it for what's new in the modelling world. Let's jump to our interview now with David Johnson, who used to work for Wingnut Wings. So that should be really interesting. So we'll bring that to you right now. Okay, and we're back with our latest guest, which is who's going to be having a chat with us about what happened at Wingnut Wings. This is actually part 2, a follow-on from our last episode. And we've got on the line David Johnson, who used to work for Wingnut Wings. Hello, David.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, David, let's have a bit of background. So, who you are, what you do, and then we'll step in and have a chat about Wingnut Wings itself.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'm a modeller. So, I've been modelling since 2006. I think I got back into it. It started when I was young. Sort of lost interest in the hobby, as you do when you're at sort of a teenager. You know, girls, rugby, cars sort of overtook my interest when I was a bit younger, and then sort of when I got married, I got back into it. Probably the shock of my wife, and just sort of fell on from there. So I'm quite active in the local community. I'm the current president of our IPMS chapter, And I also am the junior coordinator for our IPS Chapter 2. So we have monthly meetings with the kids coming around to my house and build some models with them.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're really trying to bring the next generation in.
Yeah, definitely. You're trying to fight their interest with games and other things these days. But yeah, there's quite a few kids that are still interested in these days.
So give us a bit of background on what the hobby scene is over there in New Zealand at the moment, because we don't hear a lot about it on this side of the ditch.
Yeah, it is pretty quiet over the side. We still get the big show, our yearly nationals, which sort of alternates between the North and South Island quite often. And then I believe the South Island sort of have a local South Island champs. The North Island doesn't seem to have one, but there's still the odd little shows that pop up here and there that are run by different people. But the biggest one is the big expo yearly, or every 2 years the expo that we run in Wellington, which we try to combine with the nationals at the same time.
Is it a large scene, or is it
it's probably pretty average, to be honest. Nothing compared to like what you guys would have here. Like hobby stores in New Zealand, there's not many around, unfortunately, these days. I know Auckland is the busiest place, where they have 3 or 4 of them, and then you might have another 3 or 4 scattered through the country. The local store in Wellington, unfortunately, closed down, I think just before Christmas last year. So if we want anything locally, we have to go to like the Toy World, or order it in from overseas, or one of the local suppliers.
Yeah, we've said quite often where we're located here in Melbourne, we're quite blessed with over 15 hobby stores within an hour and a half radius of where we live.
Yeah. I hear, I've got a couple of mates who reside in Melbourne, and one of my mates always posts his buyings from B&A or Metro or whatever, and it's just like, dude, stop doing this to me. It's not fair. If I want a set of aftermarket tracks or something, I've got to order it from overseas, because no one in New Zealand stocks anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
Who would you normally order through overseas?
B&A's my normally go-to guy, because they've got everything.
Exactly, yeah.
And their shipping to New Zealand is really reasonable. Like, I think, to give you an example, I ordered in the last a month ago, due to the COVID lockdowns and the delays, I ordered a Ryefield Tiger 1 and a Tamiya's Stug B and some bits and pieces. So it was a nice big box.
Yep.
And it was only like $17 Australia to ship it over to New Zealand. And if I ordered something like that for like the local eBay Trade Me site, you'll probably be paying around about the same price to get it shipped down from Auckland down to Wellington, or even more if it was coming up from the South Island.
Wow.
Yeah, shipping is a really contentious sort of issue, especially from overseas, and for us down in the Antipodes, it can be quite a pricey exercise sometimes.
Yeah, I saw it all the time with the 11 years I was at Wingnut, because obviously that was one of my things, is dealing with the shipping. So, you see some places get really hit hard with the shipping costs, and some places it's not so bad. But yeah, I used to get all the questions all the time, like, how come shipping is so expensive to New Zealand, where we could ship the same package across the ditch for around about the same price? So it is a bit frustrating sometimes, but that's the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So what sort of modelling sort of genre do you sort of mainly concentrate in, or are you one of these sort of freeform models just happy to build anything?
Well, originally when I got back into it, it was pretty much 48th Luftwaffe, anything Luftwaffe. And then it slowly grew into 32nd scale, because obviously just could do so much more with 32nd scale. And then when I started at Wingnut, so grew the appreciation of First World War aircraft. So I do that. And then unfortunately during my time at Wingnut, I lost a bit of my mojo, and I got back into building models the last couple of years by building tanks. So I'm hitting tanks quite a bit at the moment, but at the moment on my bench, I've got the Ming Sherman Jumbo tank, the Border Models Panzer IV, and I've got a commission job from a gentleman over in the UK for 5 Sopwiths. So I'm building at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm building 2 Sopwith Dolphins, and then after that, I've got a triplane, a camel, a snipe, and a pup to build for him.
Holy.
Well, that's going to keep you busy.
Yeah, it's going to keep me busy for a while.
It's funny, doing commission jobs, it's always sort of a bit of a poison chalice because you start off thinking, oh, this is what a great way to sort of fund my hobby, but then it becomes a job, and unless you're sort of very committed, it can really sort of end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Exactly. My problem sometimes is when you build something and you finish it and you go, oh man, this is just absolutely beautiful. I don't want to send this away. So that's why I sort of try when I'm building something, I build 2 at the same time. So I'm building 2 Dolphins at the moment. So the gentleman I'm building for hasn't chosen a paint scheme. He said, just go for it. So I've chosen 2 and I'm going to let him choose the one that he wants and I'll keep the other one. So hopefully they both up as pretty good, or I will have to hide one of them.
Yes.
I'm the other thing that would frighten the heck out of me is doing something like that and having to ship it overseas, so it gets to where it's. I mean, from New Zealand to the old, mother country. That's a long trip in the post.
I've got a bit of experience with that. Obviously, again with Wingnut, so I've shipped personally. A couple of commission jobs already over to the UK and to the US, and they're all Wingnut kits at that time. And bar for one, I had maybe some rigging pop off one, and the second one I had a wheel pop off it. So it comes down to how you pack it, and then obviously when traveling overseas for international shows with Wingnut, like we've been to Japan, the UK a couple of times, US, Nuremberg. So I used to do all the packing of all the model kits, and I think out of all the kits we've taken overseas when I was working at Wingnut, we had maybe 3 kits that had some damage on it that we had to fix up prior to the shows.
Well, it's not too bad considering how far they're going.
And considering these are actually going into the cargo hold too. Yeah. So you've got guys who just are throwing the bins around on the conveyor belts and getting chucked into the plane and probably chucked off as well. So considering they've gone all that distance, like when we went to Germany a few years ago, we flew from Wellington to Auckland to San Fran to Frankfurt, and then to Nuremberg. And I think we had one kit that maybe had a couple of wheels pop off, and that was it. And it's quite amazing when it comes out the other end and it's still in one piece.
It would be, yeah.
So now I'm curious as to how you pack them.
As much as everyone hates them, the single-use shopping bags.
What?
Oh, you scrunch them up.
Yes, you scrunch them up. Yeah, so the trick is you scrunch them up, and you what I normally do is I take the model and stick it inside a shopping bag. So if something does happen, it breaks, at least it's contained in the shopping bag.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you scrunch up all the shopping bags and you sort of lay a bed out on the bottom of I use like a 60-litre storage bin that you can get through Bunnings or your hardware stores over there.
Yep.
And you just put one model in, then you start putting another, surrounding it by the more shopping bags. And I think you, depending on the model size, you could probably get 3 or 4 models into like a big 60-litre bin. And then I just would normally take the outside of it. So if there's any impact on the container, the shopping bags absorb the impact, and it doesn't transfer into the model. So like I see people posting photos on Facebook and forums how they pack models all the time, and a lot of them are like using styrofoam sheet with it strapped to the sheet somehow, and I sort of cringe because I've tried that method, and that method doesn't really work, because as soon as it gets impact, that shock is going to go through the styrofoam up to the model, and of course the model is the weakest thing on that attachment, and that's what's going to cause it to break.
Correct,
with the shopping bags, it just sort of disperses all the shock around all these bags because they're all loosely scrunched together. So it really needs a big, huge impact to make it break.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool idea.
That is a great idea.
So, Wingnut Wings, how did you manage to land a job with Wingnut Wings? How long ago was it, and what were you doing
Yeah.
there?
Well, prior to Wingnut Wings, I was the Land Rover parts manager, brand manager in Wellington for the local dealership. And funny enough, it was during a similar time where the world was in a huge recession. And Holden, I think GMAC, I think was the company's name, the sort of the finance arm of Australia and New Zealand, decided to pull out of the countries. And unfortunately, the dealership that I worked for had a bit of money tied up in the finance company, and then they went into liquidation. So I got told that I was pretty much going to be walking out the door sometime soon. And I happened to know a couple of guys at Wingnuts, Richard and Nick Moore, who was one of the designers there a few years ago. They knew me through the club, and I got asked by Richard what I did at Land Rover, and I sort of told him that I sort of order parts from all over the world for customers, do a bit of shipping, all this kind of stuff that sort of fell in part with this role. And he said, I might know something. Can you flick me your CV? So I flicked him a CV, and I got a phone call maybe a couple of weeks later about it. Went in and had an interview, and walked into the place where I had to go. And Richard walked in, and I saw him and said, how's it going? Had a quick chat to him, and then he disappeared off somewhere. And then I got called into this room, and there was Richard sitting in there with one of the general managers and this other person. And they showed me what they were doing. And I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Never expected anything like this in New Zealand to happen. So I was quite blown away with it. And walked out of the interview and got back to work, and got my marching orders that afternoon saying that I was pretty much gone in 3 days' time. And the next morning I got a phone call saying, when can you start? So it all fell into place, really. So I started 3 weeks before the actual official launch of Wingnut Wings. So that's what I think was April 2009, top of my head.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah, because the launch was supposed to be April Fool's weekends, because that's they were having Classic Fighters air show at Omaka. So what was planned for us was to go down to the air show and have a tent near and launch it off the back with no one knowing.
Yep.
But unfortunately, we had supplied Windsock magazine some samples and to get built up and to have this issue dedicated to us about the 4 new kits that were released. And the subscribers started getting their issues earlier, so the website wasn't even up. So all this chaos was running around trying to get things going, because everyone's like, what's this? Is this an April Fool's joke? Is this actually real? And then we got everything up, orders started coming in, we were dispatching kits like crazy, and then people started receiving them, and then the legacy came into place from that moment on.
Yeah, it certainly hit the modelling world by storm, and it was just like I don't know. It was just nothing had come before it, and nothing has come since. It was just bang.
It was something really special to be part of, because that sort of mystery that we had of not revealing kits until we actually had them ready to go and to be shipped, sort of prior to the wetter days, was really awesome. We knew that these subjects were coming, and sometimes, being a model myself, I was getting giddy myself, going, "Oh man, I can't wait till this hits." Or till we actually had plastic physically from the manufacturer, from the tooling company, that was approved, and I can get some test shots and start building it myself. That was really cool. That was one thing that I really loved, was being able to build kits before they were commercially viable to anyone else.
So it's kind of like having the cat in charge of the aviary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So yeah, it was quite cool. and sometimes, like for example, the DH9, I actually built the website sample, and prior to that, I built so many test shots that when it came to actually building it, I didn't need the manual. I knew where all the parts were on the sprue.
Yeah.
Because I think I built that thing like at least 10 times prior to it being approved and finally released. So it was really cool.
So are you building the test ones just to see what faults are in the
in the
manufacturing
early
of it?
days?
Yeah.
So I'll put that. I'll call the Wingnut lifespan 3 phases. So the early days, which when Wingnut was the sole distributor, and then the then wetter days, and then the post wetter. So the pre-wetter days, I was helping out building test shots and sort of doing things around the studio, helping out where I could, because we were just dispatching everything ourselves. So some days, like I'd walk into the office and it was pretty quiet. So by midday, I was done with all the warehouse stuff. So I'd come upstairs and do test shot builds and sort of glue bits to pieces together.
What a horrible job.
Oh,
what a horrible job. I couldn't stand doing that. Imagine having to build models to get paid.
I must admit, it does take a toll on your own modeling at home.
That'd be the downside.
Yeah.
That's the only downside. Like, and as they say, never make your hobby your job.
Correct.
And it's so true. Before I started at Land Rover, I was an auto electrician, so I was rebuilding my own car and all that. And the last thing I wanted to do at the end of the day, after working on other people's cars, is to go and work on my own car. So it kind of ended up like that as well towards the end, which was a bit of a shame. But yeah, I'd go in the office and do some test shot and sort of give reports saying part A doesn't fit into part B, and or something didn't close up properly, or I might even just build 12 engines of the same type. So when someone else had to do a test shot, the engine was already there and they just had to drop it in, so it saves them some time.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just that, and then as said, the wetter days, I moved over to wetter for the 11 months that wetter was their distributor, and helped them with that. And unfortunately, it didn't go as planned as some people expected, and then came back after 11 months back to Wingnut and sort of took on a new role as the sales logistics manager there. And with that, my days were a lot busier, so there wasn't much time of building things during the day as previous.
Right. Yep.
So, what would you call the golden years of Wingnuts? Because you've identified 3 phases. I don't know, I guess we'll call it the inception period, and then you have your wetter days, which is a short sort of 12-month sort of experiment in regards to exporting and looking after all the movement of the stock, and then the post-wetter days. So what would you class as
I think the golden days was the first phase.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I kind of felt it sort of lost its way when we went to wetter. I had discussions with Richard prior to it and during it where both of us agreed we didn't kind of see the logic behind it. I'm not knocking wetter. The guys at wetter are absolutely fantastic guys. They're so creative, and the stuff they do there is just mind-blowing. There were some benefits that I saw when I was there, but the best way I could sum it up, it's not like you could take Bilbo Baggins and stick him into a Sockworth Camel.
Yep. Different mindsets.
Yeah, different mindsets. And it wasn't until I arranged a tour through the Vintage Aviator for the wetter crew that I was working with, and once they sort of saw what the Vintage Aviator were doing and building, then they clicked and realized the reasoning behind Wingnut Wings.
Yep.
And unfortunately, at that stage, it was just a little bit too late, and it sort of felt, I think Peter felt like he lost control of his baby, kind of, with sort of giving it to wetter. So he wanted it to come back and for Wingnut to be in control of everything. So yeah, there were definitely a lot of benefits through Weather Workshop, but just as I said, it's not like you could take Bilbo Baggins and drop them into a Sopwith Camel. It's just two different mindsets.
Yep.
And that Middle Earth and film industry side of things is huge. And the stuff that they're doing, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And some really cool things that came out of it that I picked up during my time there, which helped me, and I'm sure it helped Wingnut Wings when I was there as well.
So moving forward now, what in your mind sort of started to sort of bring about the eventual closing of Wingnut Wings?
Yeah, it's a bit hard. I've only got my opinion because though I was a management role, I would say I was more lower management, and I wasn't in the higher management, and so everything wasn't disclosed to me. So there was still a bit of mystery of even within the company of how things were being operated and run. To me, I see how other people run businesses and do things, and there were just certain little things that I felt that we could have done to improve how Wingnut Wings operated, which we were kind of lacking. And I think sort of in the last sort of, I don't know, 24 months, that's when sort of I felt things changed in Wingnut. In the past, it was all about just producing these fantastic products that everyone loved and wanted, and there was no financial drive behind it. It's like there was no, like if we released the Felixstowe and it was a total flop, it wasn't end of the world because we were just producing things that Peter wanted at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, Peter called the shots. He got to decide what was built and manufactured and stuff like that. But just sort of that last 24 months, it kind of felt like the tide shifted to we've got to make money. And I tried to suggest things that we could do to maybe help things. And I feel sometimes that maybe things weren't implicated quick enough or were sort of dismissed, and it could have had a play on how things panned out. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But end of the day, I believe if we didn't have Peter Jackson backing it and it was run by another person with some kind of financial banking, I believe that Wingnut Wings could turn a profit and be a very successful company, considering and looking at things that we might be releasing in the future, and maybe not release some of these obscure aircraft that we did. End of the day, I still think these are fantastic aircraft that were released because no one else would have done it.
It always surprised me that they never released like a SPAD 13.
Yeah,
especially you do a SPAD 13 and like Eddie Rickenbacker's markings. You're just printing your own money.
Yeah, it was disappointing. There were so many aircraft, and yes, there was times that we felt like we didn't want to step on other manufacturers' toes. Because you saw it with Roden, they sort of pulled out straight away after we came on the scene and said, we're not doing any more 32nd aircraft. And I believe that since Wingnut is now gone, they're reconsidering starting that up again, which is great. And that's what we felt that we didn't want to do. We didn't want to come in and be sort of like the big bully in the playgrounds and say, no, you can't do this, and just sort of damage other people's businesses, because we're aware that the modelling industry is a small market worldwide.
It's very cutthroat too.
It is very cutthroat. You look at like the manufacturers in China who are producing King Tigers and Panthers at the same time, and they're all great kits, but you sort of wonder when you do that, it's going to hurt each other's sales. So we sort of didn't want to do that to other manufacturers as well, and do some more of those obscure subjects. But I think everyone in the studio would probably agree with me. They would have loved to see some of these really popular fighters be done.
Definitely.
Because the talents of the three modelers who did all the CAD work, honestly, like I've seen the test shots of the DR1, I've seen the CAD work of the DR1, and some of the other subjects that were in development that had either test shots ready, sort of coming up to being close to release, or things that were starting to coming into fruition. And honestly, the detail in it was just fantastic. I mean, that's one thing I think we were able to achieve during the time at Wingnut, was every time we released something, we sort of pushed ourselves further to do it better on the next one.
And not only that, though, I mean, because you look at other manufacturers, and, you know, I think of some of the Chinese manufacturers, I won't name names, but you can get two different models from the same company. One can be an absolute classic and the other one can be an absolute dog. Whereas with Wingnut Wings, each kit they produced met the same exacting control and quality control, so the standards, fit, and everything was always 100% perfect, consistent. Yeah, consistent, absolutely.
Yeah. And we were also privileged to see the test shots for the Lancaster that was going to come out. And that just, like, the moulding for the interior just blew my mind.
Oh, my God.
It was amazing.
Definitely. And I'll say Wingnut wasn't perfect. We made mistakes and there's sacrifices for detail sometimes because it wasn't physically possible to do it. We're not perfect. Tammy is not perfect. No one's perfect. So, but we always made sure that we pushed the boundaries quite a few times. I remember in staff meetings, just sometimes the discussions from Richard, from the feedback from some of the tooling companies saying, no, they can't do this because they believe they can't do it, but we push and we managed to do certain things that they believe they couldn't do. So, it was really cool to see all these new kits coming out, and we would push ourselves and the tooling companies more just to get a better product out at the end of the day.
Yep.
And at least when you bought a Wingnut Wings kit, you knew what you were buying, whereas it can be a real lucky dip with some other modelling manufacturers.
You mean Airfix?
Oh, I wasn't going to name any names.
Hey, I'll name them. I'm not afraid to name them.
Yeah, true. That's one thing, That's one thing that was sort of a goal, was whatever we produced was, yes, there were kits that were more harder than others, but the idea was we could give a kit to, like, let's say a 10-year-old, and they could put it together themselves.
Yes.
So that was the main goal behind it, is try to push that even to the younger people. Like my son, every time he walks in to the warehouse or into the studio, or even downstairs when I'm building things, and he's just like, I want to build an Albatross, I want to build a Yonkers, I want to build this. So that's the main thing, is just getting anyone at any skill level able to build the kit.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you still in touch with the other members of the company? Have you sort of spoken to them since?
I'm in touch with pretty much all of them still these days. I actually caught up with two of them on Wednesday to have a couple beers and have a little chat. But yeah, we still try to keep in touch. We were talking about it's one thing that we need to do is stay in touch, because, like, for me, with the rest of the guys, we've been together for nearly 12 years. So like when I left, I actually turned around and said they're pretty much a part of my extended family, because I know them so well, and they know me, and they know things that I've gone through, and I know things that they've gone through. So it's, though the sad things happen that Wingnut shut up and we've all gone our separate ways, I think we've got this really got strong connection of Wingnut through all of us, that pretty much all of us will probably stay in contact.
And how are the boys coping since the closure?
It's a bit of mixed reactions from what I've heard from them. Some of the guys are still a little bit shocked and maybe disappointed things happened the way it happened. A couple of them are moved on, they've accepted it, and looking forward to what they're doing next. I just before I came on, I heard through one of the other guys that one of them's got a new job and starting on Monday. So
that's good.
It's good. Yeah, it's great. So I was a little bit worried when the news came out with the current situation in New Zealand, especially that we were in a lockdown and many people weren't getting hired at that time, that timing was pretty bad and they were going to be struggling to find something. But it sounds like most of them are sort of going to be bouncing on their feet pretty quickly.
Oh,
That's great news, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move into the realm of speculation now. What do you think is going to happen with all of the? I mean, as late as this week, I just heard there was a hobby shop in the UK that received a shipment of Wingnut Wings this week, for example. Of
Yes,
kits.
and I believe I saw another one in Canada state. They received their last shipment as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really hard to know what's going on, especially now with how things are being run. Knowing how the group operates, I totally won't be surprised if you don't see the tooling ever again. I have a pretty strong feeling that the tools will not be sold to anyone. The tools will not be leased to anyone, because knowing how Peter operates, and I think Dave Wilson touched on this.
Yes, he did, yeah.
The last show, that Peter doesn't like, let's say, sharing his toys.
Yeah.
For instance, after a shoot, sets might get destroyed or certain parts of sets will get put into storage and sort of become his, and maybe they will never see the light of day again. So I'm kind of picking that's going to happen with the tools.
Which seems a real shame, considering when you think like the Lancaster release we were meant to get this year. The amount of work that you guys would have put into that, only to have it stored and shoved in the corner
tell me
of a
about it.
warehouse,
I mean,
would be so disheartening.
And I have to say, I'd reckon that the box art, all the instructions are all ready to go. It was just
it honestly, from the last time when I left, there was only a few things to go still. I mean, I think they were still applying rivets to the airframe, and that was sort of one of the last things that they had to do, and it was going to be a big job. But I knew that the decal schemes were all set out. I'm pretty sure most of the instructions were sort of in their draft period with some tweaks and stuff. Honestly, I really feel the most for Brian Wall, who was the main designer, and the other guy, Jake Hocking, who used to work for Wingnut. They were the two that did the CAD work, and initially the CAD work didn't take too long. I think, talking to Brian, he said to me that it took maybe about three years to do all the CAD work for the Lancaster, and it wasn't until
that's Peter not long. 3 years.
No, it's not long. And then it was when Peter decided that we're going to push the boundaries and do the stress skin effect, that it added pretty much double amount of time on it, and and it did take nearly 10 years or 11 years for it to sort of come into fruition. Like when we announced it, I remember people saying, Wingnut Wings have just gone out and CAD'd it up in a couple of weeks. So no, unfortunately, that was never the case. I remember I wasn't even there for maybe a few months, and the email came through to Richard from Peter saying, do you want to tackle this? And Peter and Richard said, yeah, let's give it a go. And I remember Mark Possenthwaite, who's a very well-known historian and aviation artist, he flew over from Poland to give his insight, because he's very knowledgeable in Lancasters and especially the Dam Busters raid. And he flew over, I think, mid-2009 to late 2009, sort of to help and give us a bit of input into it. So yeah, I really feel for the two designers because they've put so much heart and effort into this project, and it's never going to see the day of light.
Well, I didn't realise that the Lancaster project reached that far back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it does. It's 11 years in the making. I think was one of the little catchphrases that we used when we sort of released that Wingnuts was going to release it. So, it was with that was pushing the boundaries and tooling as well. And I think that's why it took so long to get it to a point where it was almost ready for release.
Yeah.
Because it was going to be a beautiful model. Because I built the first test shot that we took to Telford.
Oh no! Did you really? Oh god.
Yeah. So
I'm so envious of you.
I'm gutted. I wish I had test shots of it that I could took home. Because that was one good thing is like if there was test shots lying around and you wanted to build something, you just had to ask Rich and say, hey, do you mind if I grab a set of test shots to build? And knowing with him, he would turn around and say, yeah. And end of the day after I built it, I'd turn around and give it to Richard to take photographs off and stick it on the website. So, I'm kind of kicking. That's one thing I'm kind of kicking myself not having test shots of. But I do have test shots of the 0400.
Oh,
so,
that's a big beastie too.
It is a big beast. So I was originally going to be building one of the website samples, and I took that. I got given the test shots of that probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 days before my last day because I was going to build it and have it on display at the Scale Models Expo here in Wellington back in April. But obviously the COVID situation and the lockdown kind of threw all that out. So I haven't really touched any more of it, but I'm kind of stuck because I've got no decals for it. But I think I'll be able to sort something out because I've got one of the good mates of mine, Mike Swinburne in Virginia. He built the 0100 website version, and he's got a couple of decal sheets. So there's a few common decals between the two sheets that will save me, and I guess I can probably crack out the Illustrator and create some vinyl masks to do the roundels and the serial number and that. But I'll worry about that when it comes to that stage.
Yes.
So, Dave, what's the future hold for you then?
I was quite lucky because I kind of jumped before the ship sunk, unfortunately. And I left Wingnut in just middle of December last year. So now I'm working for one of the local hospitals in the region, doing contracts and procurement for the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, you would have been certainly busy over the last couple of months, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Although thankfully it wasn't as bad in New Zealand as anywhere else around the world.
No, I think we were quite lucky. I think we were quite lucky and our government acted quite quickly and swiftly with the situation. So, during the lockdown period, it wasn't too overly busy for me in the way of that kind of area because we've got emergency procedures that come in place. So I've been back in the office now, this is the end of the third week I've been back in the office, and it's definitely picked up now because we've got to do all the cleanup work from everyone spending money related to COVID and everything that's been put off is coming back into place now. So it's a really different industry.
Absolutely.
But it's enjoyable knowing that coming from Wingnut, being able to bring joy to people. I'm moving into another industry that helps people. So
and that's it about Wingnuts. I mean, I spoke to our last guest the other week, and I can't think of a modelling company that has endeared and had such a large sort of fan base that supported it and felt part of the journey. I mean, because it's legendary where a modeller could get in contact directly with Richard, for example, and say, hey, how about you tweak this or or had a problem with this, and the response would be, within the week you'd get something back.
Yeah.
It was
in the early days. I'd make sure I have a reply to them within sort of 24 hours. But obviously, as we got busier and I got busier, sometimes those time frames went out a little bit longer to sort of 2-3 days. But that because I was in charge of all of that, I was the one replying to all the customers and parts requests and stuff like that. And the way I felt is I wanted to treat our customers the way I expected to be treated by someone else if I was in the same situation. Because I must admit, that's one thing that frustrates me is you get a kit and there's a short shot in it or it's missing something, and then you try to contact the retailer who tries to contact the wholesaler or the manufacturer directly for you, and they can't help. And then you try to contact the manufacturer and they just don't want to know or don't care. And to me, it's such a sour taste on the enjoyment of the kit.
Yeah, I'm into my second year of trying to get a sprue off Dragon for an aircraft carrier. The second year. It's been nearly 2 years now, and I had a couple of emails. It's almost like fly fishing. You get a couple of little nibbles. They send 1 or 2 emails, and you respond to them, and then nothing happens for another 8 months or 9 months.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
But that was the main thing, was that I wanted our customers to feel that we were approachable, and that we cared, and we did care, and I always went out of my way to help people where I could. Like, I know for a couple of times that I had a customer who might have emailed in saying, "Hey, I need this decal sheet. I've cocked up this," and I've gone, "Unfortunately, we've got none left because we've sent them out or whatever. But I know that I'm not going to use the scheme, so I'll go home and I'll cut the decal sheet off my kit, personal kit."
That service.
Because I know at the end of the day, they're just going to sit in my drawer. I'm not going to use them. If I can help someone else out, that's the whole reasoning behind it, and something that I was proud about pushing, and sort of knowing that we possibly even had the best aftermarket care in the industry, which makes so much difference, and you get all these customers who appreciate it, and I feel they sort of in return become loyal to you because they're investing their money into a product for their enjoyment, but they know that we're going to stand behind it and help them out if something goes wrong.
Well, people say we're in the golden age of modelling, and I certainly agree with that. And Wingnut Wings for the last 10 years has certainly been one of the sort of shining lights of that golden age. And let's hope that perhaps in the future the moulds will reappear, or even at least a few of them sort of, with a one-off run, or with like the Lancaster, for example, or some of the other great kits that are yet to be, or even some of the old, more popular ones. Because I mean, the Albatross, you could print them off all day and they'd still sell.
See, as you said, it's still early days. It's early days of what's happening. I've been contacted by a few people around the world who are interested in buying Wingnut Wings or buying the tooling or whatever, and been asked who do they need to contact and stuff like that. I've also been told that if a certain person manages to pull it off and able to do this, that he wants me to come back. So it's something I would probably even look at, maybe. But I think there's a lot of clogs turning with a lot of different people at the moment, looking at the possibility of something similar to Wingnut Wings. Maybe it won't be Wingnut Wings.
I think it's just time. I think it's just basically just let the dust settle.
Yeah.
And then once everything's settled and everything's calmed down, then
exactly.
People can start looking at it.
At the end of the day, Wingnut Wings does not own the hugest asset they had. So if anyone out there who has maybe a spare couple of million and interested in starting your own Wingnut kit, similar type kits, hey, reach out to me, because I know 3 CAD modelers who will be able to pull the cat out of the hat and produce some fantastic models for that person to be released. So, but yeah, you never know. something might come out of it. We don't. Yeah, it's
We'll
still
keep
early
our
days.
we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've got my fingers crossed. Man, if I win lotto this weekend, it seems like every weekend there's a jackpot of X amount of millions going. If I win lotto, I would even consider doing it myself because I know it can be done.
Yes.
And I'm sure if anyone ever did pick up the CAD modelers and say, hey, we're doing whatever subject, and it's the guys behind Wingnut Wings, designers, I'm pretty sure the fan base would be pretty loyal and jump on board that bandwagon too.
Absolutely.
I reckon the fan base is probably willing to even put money into the thing.
Yeah, I've seen a few comments pop up on the Wingnut Wings fan page saying, how can we crowdfund it?
Yeah, Hey, crazier things are being done.
Yeah, you'll need some crazy amounts to do that. But hey, you never know.
Hey, it could be the model company owned by the modelers.
Yeah, well, it's out there. I think the Green Bay Packers, the American football team, that's what they do. They've got shares, and all their fans own the team.
Yeah.
So why can't it happen with a model company?
Exactly.
Interesting business model, isn't it?
It is. But hey, it's going online now, so everyone's going to hear this. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Dave, thanks so much for coming on the
That's
show.
been a great interview.
No worries. Anytime.
Really appreciate it. And just lastly, if anybody wants to get in contact with you in your capacity as the IPMS president out that way in New Zealand, how do they get hold of you?
Just jump on to Facebook. We've got it's called Scale Models Wellington IPMS, and we're on the website. I've got a website as well. You can jump on there, or you can even look me up on Facebook yourself. I'm on there personally, and I've got a modelling page as well, which is Dave's model page. So you can flick me a message through one of those.
Sounds great.
Terrific, mate. Hopefully we'll see you this side of the ditch for our expo next year.
Yeah. I've been wanting to get over there
You'll love
for
it,
a
mate.
couple of years now. It's just every time I've looked at it, the timing hasn't been great.
Yeah.
So
But the flights aren't that expensive, you know. It's only a couple of
no,
$100
it's not.
return.
It's like sometimes like $400 or $500 to jump across the ditch return.
Yeah.
I think Dave's got a
It's
spare
crazy.
room here, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah, I've
I
got
know.
some room.
It costs me that to fly down to Queenstown. So
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, I might be able to convince the wife maybe to go over, and she can go shopping, and I'll go to
Mate, the
As
best
she
place
calls
is there's a place not far from there called Chadstone Shopping Centre.
yeah.
Drop her off
Yeah.
there, and you can forget about it for the next 3 days.
Your credit card would probably be bleeding afterwards.
Oh yeah, it'll hurt your back pocket, but she'll be
Probably.
happy as pie.
She'll like it. Yeah.
All right, Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, mate. You look after yourself.
No worries. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Dave.
much.
Bye, mate.
Bye.
All right.
you.
See ya.
Well, that was a great interview from David.
Oh, was it
and
ever?
it's really interesting to hear from somebody who actually worked inside Wingnut Wings.
Hmm.
So there's some hints there of what might come to pass in the future without really sort of speculating. I get there's some just reading between the lines that potentially there might be sort of something coming out, not from Wingnut Wings, but a rebirth in some shape or form through
But
somebody
it
else
could be,
maybe.
if it happens, it'll be
I'm
a while away.
skeptical.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I mean, any kind of sort of even a fragment of Wingnut Wings coming to prominence in the future would require like a significant amount of backing. You know, and where does that money come from? I mean, yeah, sure, like crowdfunding and stuff is popular these days, but
people's attention wavers.
you have to remember that, how many people are actually willing to put down their money, especially modelers.
Yeah, we are known to be tight.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. Geez, I spend a huge amount of money on models and stuff, and I know, Ian, you're never afraid to sort of bend the bank balance when it comes
true.
to building.
Yeah, but it's almost like a hostage negotiation, where they're like, okay, you give me the thing and then I give you the money.
Yeah.
They're not willing to sort of go, okay, I'll give you the money in good faith, and then later on you give me the thing. And they don't even need to... That's before you even get into the fact that you could explain it to them that your money's not actually being deducted until they actually finish the product, right? But they still don't... They won't be like, they're almost like they're really tight with their money and they're really skeptical generally. I don't think, like, unless it's a very young model, I don't think they'll go for it. Like a Kickstarter thing. I've seen actual Kickstarter type stuff related to other areas of modeling, and they had so many sort of old generation modelers who are not just skeptical of it, but critical of it, and would denounce it publicly. Why should I give money to this thing? Kind of, that was there, and they were like trying to actively encourage others not to do so as well.
Well, I'm the optimist of the group, and I reckon that we will see something. And I still maintain that if you apply the same quality control and attention to detail that Wingnut Wings have to any other genre of modelling, it will sell like hotcakes.
There's also the fact that crowdfunding depends on crowds.
Oh yeah,
and
look,
there's the modelling crowd is a pretty small crowd to begin with,
and with the financial state of the planet at the moment, that not many people are going to be forking out much money. Not for the next few years anyway.
And then you got to think of, okay, how big a portion of the modelling community has an interest in World War One subjects?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
And
not just World War One. If you apply the same quality control and attention to detail that Wingnut Wings have to other genres of modelling, it will sell.
And then on top of that, you got like the actual what subject do you tackle first?
Well, that's another discussion.
And if you actually leave it up to modelers, they'll just come out with every bad suggestion under the sun, Oh, we definitely need one of these
we
need things.
We need a fairy fruit bat.
It's like, the first thing we need is this, 6-engine bomber. It's like, really? That's the worst. Like, start with something small. No.
130 seconds.
They didn't listen to my opinion, and
or one of those big. What are they? The big Aleutian. Well, no, the big Tupolev to use with the parasite fighters underneath the wings. We want that in 1/32 scale. Yeah, but where are you going to put it when it's built?
And then the people that are demanding that they get it are the people who won't buy it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's easy to put your money if you're not putting it's easy to put your mouth if you're not putting your money behind it. What's the term?
Put your money
where your mouth. I can't get the right term.
Dave.
Give up, Dave. Give up.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Put your money where your mouth is. Exactly right. Okay. All right. Well, this has been a really long episode.
It has, yes.
So I think it's time we sort of signed off. So I'll go to Ian first.
Photo, which is always your friend.
Across to Julian.
Your dreams probably won't come true.
Oh, ouch!
No, I'm not saying just don't be optimistic. I mean,
be pessimistic.
Just be patient instead. Be patient instead. And if it comes to if your wishes are granted by the manufacturers, then so be it. But otherwise, don't ask for anything.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back in a fortnight. You're listening to On the Bench, and it's been great having you with us. As always, we highly recommend that you also have a listen to our other two podcasts. The first one is Scale Model Mojo with Michael and Dave, those banjo picking hayseeds from Kentucky. And don't forget, of course, the Scale Model podcast, which comes from Canada. And you can listen to Anthony and Stuart and their version of the modelling world from the snow-blown north of Canada. Give both of those shows a listen, and don't forget also to rate them as well on whatever podcast app you're doing, as it helps all three shows just pop up in other people's feeds as well. Once again, thanks for being with us this fortnight. We'll be back next fortnight with another show. And if you want to get in contact with us, don't forget you can drop us an email on thebench64@gmail.com. And of course, we also have our Facebook page called On the Bench. Just plug in On the Bench into the search section of Facebook and you'll find us there. We would love to have you along for the ride. My name's Dave. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.